Good day, Tragic here, and welcome to the first introduction, I guess, for my new series. This is going to be a Lord of the Rings playthrough, and we're starting all the way back to the beginning. And this is going to be interesting for a few things. There'll be a bit of repetition here for people who follow my channel. This will be the first one that I'm actually going to post at Board Game Geek, so it's like a new start. Now, some of you may know that I have done playthrough with the physical cards playing solo all the way up to somewhere inside the Shadow Cycle. But we're starting back at Mirkwood, and this time I'm going to be playing multi-handed solo, mainly two-handed, but sometimes three, sometimes four, sometimes solo. I'm not going to be too strict about it, but the point is mainly double-handed. And that's because even though I've played quite a lot of this game multiplayer, the vast majority I've played is solo, because I just can't handle holding all the cards in real life. It's just such a pain. But because I'm playing inside a virtual tabletop this time, it doesn't matter. So I thought I'm going to play multi-handed solo, mainly two-handed. And this is because, especially as the game progressed, it really became clearer and clearer that the game is designed for two players. Like, this is actually a two-player game that you can play with different player counts. But most of the quests really function best with two players. So by playing multi-handed solo, I think I'm going to get a better appreciation for the true spirit of the game. Because a lot, for example, when you're playing solo, there is no other player, so tons of effects don't hit you the same way. You don't have effects that, the whole range keyword and all the cards that handle which kind of board the engagement thing goes to, they're all useless. They don't do anything in solo. So there's going to be a lot of cards I've never used. I'm going to try and experiment with. I think it's going to be quite a lot of fun. So that's going to be the main focus of this series. We're going to be doing a playthrough, mainly two-handed solo. Now, I'm also going to be using a restricted card pool. Now, many people who play the game restrict their card pools by cycle. And the reason people do that is that as the card pool grew and grew for the player, the earlier quests became easier and easier to beat because you had more powerful decks that you could construct. So the way people get around that, well, it was actually so bad that they introduced the Nightmare Packs. But the way people got around that themselves before the Nightmare Pack started to come out was to restrict card pools by cycle. And we're going to be playing cycle card pools in this playthrough. So currently I'm playing with the Mirkwood Cycle, and you can see basically the Mirkwood Cycle here. But this isn't exactly the same because the Nightmare Packs actually wouldn't be in the Mirkwood Cycle because they didn't get released until ages later. But the idea behind the cycle card pool is that you can only use player cards that were released at the time that the quests were released. Now, there is like a super restricted version of cycle play where, say, if you want to play Hunt for Gollum, you could only use the core set cards and the Hunt for Gollum cards. That is the purist, okay? People call it purist. Like the Lord of the Rings players call that a purist card pool, which means that it's exactly the same way as if you were waiting for the packs to be released right at the beginning of the game. But we're not going to play purist, we're going to play cycle, which means that if we wanted to play Hunt for Gollum, we'd have all of core and then every card from the 6-pack cycle. And that's because with the cycles, cards will be released in the Hunt for Gollum that synergize off cards in this pack. And each cycle is really a contained unit. So because we're playing the Mirkwood Cycle, we're going to play all these quests, but we're also going to only use the cards from that cycle. And cycles also include the print on demand. Each cycle usually has its own print on demand. And as the patterning started to form, we also found out that each cycle also usually has a saga box. Now, the Daredel cycle, which is the next cycle, for example, has Khazad-dûm as the main box. Then it has the 6 Daradelf packs. Then it has the 2 Hobbit Saga boxes. And it has the Lake Town pod. And that is the Daradelf Cycle. And when playing the Daradelf Cycle, you have everything inside Mirkwood plus everything inside Daradelf. Now when you go to the Shadow Cycle, which is the next one, it's the same thing, except from the Shadow Cycle onward, it is expansion box, 6 packs, 1 Saga box, and a pod. Anyway, so that's what we're going to be playing. Now, we're also going to be playing something that I call Restricted. So this is Mirkwood Restricted is what we're technically playing. And what that means is, because this is a digital version of the game, we basically have an infinity copy of every card. But when I play a restricted cycle play, what that means is that you only have access to a single set of the core set, of the card pool. So 3 copies of every card. That's all you can use. And the reason this is because, like, say you're playing a 4-player game, you could have like 12 copies of Test of Will or Unexpected Courage or something. Just ridiculous amounts. You know, you're saying you could have like 12 different eagles. You know what I mean? And it just you can make super ridiculously powered decks. So by playing it restricted, we're restricted to a single copy of the entire set. So only 3 copies of every card can be used in total on the table. So if I have 3 copies of Unexpected Courage in deck 1, deck 2 cannot have any. So that is what we're playing. We're going to be playing Mirkwood Restricted. And yeah, let's get started. Oh, one more thing before I finish the introduction is that this mod is a modification of a very good mod on the workshop for Tabletop Simulator called Lord of the Rings: A Card Game HQ Deluxe. And it is made by Papa Sales. Now, he's done a very good job. Almost everything you see visually is from him, except I did all these boards, and you know, most of these icons actually were done by a guy called Bjorn. But I did all the scripting, is one of my main contribution. So he did these boxes and all these little, you know, pack icons and stuff. So, and he did all the card scans as well, which is the important part. That's the bit that takes forever. So this is a modification of his work, so a big thank you to him. Now, some of you may know that I made the Lackey plugin for Lord of the Rings. So I've been making Lord of the Rings tabletop plugins for since the day this was released, like back in core set days. So it's really interesting to try and convert it into Tabletop Simulator, which I use a lot nowadays. And this series is acting as a kind of experimentation for me to refine the mod to make it better. So it might be a little clunky in some places, and there might be some bugs showing up. And part of my reason for doing this playthrough is not only to enjoy the game, but also to perfect this mod. So just be aware of that. Now, what this means is that the mod itself is not going to be complete. I haven't got it uploaded to the workshop, though I may upload a temp version just for the hell of it. But I will only be adding in these packs as I complete them. So the card pool at the moment in the all cards is only 115 player cards and 18 heroes, because it's just the Mirkwood Cycle is all I've done. And I have only done Passages to Mirkwood for the encounter deck. I haven't done any of the other encounter decks even yet. So there's no need to ask me about this mod because it's not coming for a while. I'll probably release it once I've finished the Mirkwood Cycle, and I'll stick to that pattern. Every time I add a cycle, I'll update the mod. Anyway, that is pretty much that. But if you want a complete version of this mod without all the scripting, get the HQ Deluxe version made by Papa Sans. It's extremely good. Okay, so that's about that. So first thing I'll just quickly show you is the awesome deck builder that I've made. Now, some of you may know that I use a a deck builder called Zorbex Deck Builder, and it outputs a text file. You just paste it in and hit the build deck button, and it creates the deck for you. Very nice. Then hit this button, and out comes the actual deck in a nice little deck box. Now, Papa Sans, when he made these deck boxes, did a pretty decent job on the texture map, which means it's very, very easy to edit if you want to replace this with an image of your own. Now, as I play these quests, I'm going to be doing the same thing I did in the last thing. I'm going to try and make creative decks rather than having the same deck every time. As I complete the quests, I'll be saving my decks into the mod for people as well. That's something cool to look forward to. Anyway, that is the end of the introduction. So I will see you in the next video for the first playthrough. And I'll see you guys next time.